Hi, I'm Professor Christina Cheung at the Department of Anthropology at CUHK. A few days ago, we asked you to ask us some questions on IG about archaeology, and today I'm trying to answer these questions. 考古發掘時，如何分辨人骨同動物骨? This is a tough question. It's not always possible to identify what is animal bone, what's human bones. For example, here we have three things here. They all look like bones. This is not a piece of bone, but this is just a bark from a tree. But it does look a lot like bone from an untrained perspective. And then this is, this is not an actual real bone, but this is a cast of a human toe bone or the metatarsal bone. And this one, although it again looks very similar to a human jaw, if you look closely at the teeth, the tooth is actually not from a human, this is from a pig. So basically, what I'm trying to say is it's not easy to distinguish what is animal, what is human bone. You just need to have some experience. 幾時掘到人骨關警察事? So this is a tough question. In Hong Kong, there isn't a specific law about whether what is considered archaeological human remains and what is considered a forensic remain. So basically, if we found human bones in Hong Kong, you have to call the police, inform the police immediately. In other countries, sometimes if the remains is older than 50 years, for example, then they could be considered archaeological remains, and then the police would not have to open a file for it. But it really depends on the city or the state law, and I can't really answer to all of them. What kind of tools do archaeologists use the most? So there are a few tools that we use in the field. The most common ones are trowels. And so this is basically, it's quite self-explanatory. You use it to remove soil from either an artifact or a feature. I also want to show this other tool here. It is called an auger. So this auger is very useful for us to, before actually excavating, using an auger to take a core sample from the soil and try to see what's in it before we actually decide where to dig. Okay, next question. How do archaeologists know the date of the artifact from an excavation site? What methods will you use to date the stuff? There are actually many methods we can use for dating. Absolute dating is one of the most reliable methods, for example, radiocarbon dating. But radiocarbon dating is very expensive, and also you need suitable material for that. So sometimes when that's not possible, there's a very simple way called relative dating using stratigraphy. Okay, so this is a mock stratigraphy map that we have created here. And you can see there are many different colors, layers here. So each layer corresponds to a different cultural layer. If you look over here, for example, there's a Roman coin there. So we know this layer is a Roman layer. And so any layer below this will be earlier than Roman period. So for example, this one is probably Iron Age. And then the layer that is above the Roman layer will be a layer that is later than the Roman period, probably the Anglo-Saxon period. So this way we can know, without using radiocarbon dating, we can roughly know the layers, how they correspond to each other's, and this is called relative dating. Next question. I'm curious of all scientific methods used in archaeology. For example, how are some digital technologies such as AI can be used in archaeology? Actually, so much. AI has helped find hidden sites from satellite images or other remote sensing methods. And also AI can even help to classify or recognize artifacts. Another really cool application of AI is something I guess young people are really familiar with is VR or AR, so virtual reality or augmented reality. So they could use these VR or AR technologies to allow users to have an immersive experience either in a site or with the artifacts. So currently, We don't really do that much work with AI at CUHK Archaeology, but we hope in the future we are going to be able to develop more in these areas. Okay, next question. 考古學家研究恐龍嗎? Well, the short answer is no. Paleontologists study dinosaurs. Archaeologists only study the part of history that concerns human. Now, what is considered the beginning of human history is a different area of debate, but in any case, all dinosaurs have long gone extinct long before any of our closest relatives came. So, no, we don't study dinosaurs. Okay, next question. 人類嘅祖先係馬騮定係大猩猩呢? Neither. We are closely related to them, but we are not directly descended from them. 點樣分出石頭同古人用過嘅石器呢? It's not always easy. You really need to have trained eyes to be able to identify them. So sometimes if you're really lucky, if you find a stone tool that looks like this, then it's obviously shaped by a human, and then you know this is a stone tool rather than a stone. Sometimes you find something like this, and then here, even though it still looks way more crude than this, because you can tell that this particular site has been intentionally shaped in certain ways. So this is also a stone tool, even though it doesn't look as pretty as this one. But sometimes you also have stone tools like this. This is a hammer stone, so this is used for hammering things. It doesn't look particularly human-made, so basically for an untrained person, this would look just like a rock. So you need to really have experience in this in order to identify what is a stone tool and what is just a piece of rock. How do you decide where to dig and what clues do you look for before starting an excavation? In Hong Kong, we actually not allowed to just do research excavation. So whenever there's an excavation, that's usually because there's construction or development. And so, for example, in a village, if the government decided to build a highway over it, they would hire archaeologists to go inspect the village first to see if there's any potential archaeology underneath. But in other different places where research excavations is allowed, archaeologists will have to survey the area before. Sometimes if you're lucky, you have a huge standing structure like the pyramid, then you know there's something there. Otherwise, sometimes you can talk to local people. Remote sensing, there are different types of surveying that you can do to make sure you're not digging in the wrong place. Can archaeologists research about the daily lives of ancient people, such as diet? So, great question, because now I can talk about my own research. My own research is to reconstruct past dietary practices through a method called stable isotope analysis. So the method is based on the saying, you are what you eat. So every day you eat a lot of food, and the food will be digested and become part of your body, including different body tissues. So for example, your hair, your fingernails, your bones, they all record the food you eat every day. In archaeology, we are mostly working with obviously skeletal tissue, so bones or teeth. And by analyzing the stable isotope compositions of ancient people, we can kind of backtrack what kind of food they ate in the past. So obviously it's not like very specific answers like whether they ate chicken or lettuce for dinner or something like that, but it's more general, like what kind of general resources they were exploiting. So this is a schematic way to explain how to use stable isotope analysis to understand what people ate in the past. So on the y-axis here, we have nitrogen isotope values, and then on the x-axis, we have carbon. Y-axis is easiest to understand. It's about trophic position. So if you are a cow, a herbivore, will have about 6 per mil in nitrogen isotope values. Omnivore, like a pig, would have slightly higher nitrogen isotope values. And then a carnivore, like a cat, will have even higher nitrogen isotope values. So if you are a human, depending on what you eat, if you are mostly a vegetarian, you will have similar nitrogen isotope values as a cow. But if you eat a lot of meat, then you would have similar isotope values as the cat or other carnivores. So that is nitrogen. And for carbon, it represents different types of protein sources. So whether you were eating from the marine system or terrestrial system, or whether you were eating C3 and C4 food, which I don't think I'm going to go into too much detail. But anyway, so based on this, we can tell if ancient people were eating a lot of vegetables only, or if they were eating a lot of fish. Okay, next question. 與歷史系的兒童 So this question is interesting. History is mostly based on studying written record, and so it's largely focused on historical periods. However, archaeology is more material-based, so we study material culture left behind. However, the two fields cannot basically work in isolation from each other. So archaeologists, including myself, we often have to use historical texts for reference. And similarly, historians also are increasingly going to use archaeological evidence in their research as well. So basically, we are two interrelated and deeply intertwined fields. Next question. 發掘時，考古學家會在遺址中過夜嗎? Not really. We're not allowed to sleep on the site, but then we usually camp near the site. 做考古學家會唔會變到皮膚好差? Not really. So obviously you have to use sunscreen, but there are also different types of archaeologists. You can be working in the field. You can also be working in the lab like myself, so I don't really get to go outside at all. But in any case, even if you're a field archaeologist and you're digging in a really sunny place, it is actually safety concern to not let you dig during the hottest time of the day. So usually you would have to start digging at like 6 a.m. in the morning, and you have to stop before 11. 考古發掘係咪好辛苦? I mean, yeah, but everything is difficult too. Life is hard too. So, okay, next question. I've heard that there are usually much more men than women involved in digging. As a female archaeologist, how do you feel about digging as a gendered experience? This is a very heavy question. So let me clarify, I'm not a field archaeologist. I don't really have a lot of field experience. From what I hear in university, there are actually way more female archaeologists than male archaeologists, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a issue there. So recently in 2023, there's a study that came out in Antiquity investigating the issue they call HABI, which is, it stands for harassment, assault, bullying, and intimidation. So in this Europe-wide survey, they interviewed 1,000 archaeologists and asked whether they have hobby experience. And you can see in this graph here, a vast majority of the people who reported with hobby experience were females, age range around 20 to 40 years old. This is obviously a really sad situation. So if you want to know more about this, please go here to read more from the actual paper. 香港邊度最多文物出土? One of the most remarkable sites in Hong Kong is on Lamma Island. Actually, it's not one site. There are many, many different sites on Lamma Island. You can see on this 3D printed map of Lamma Island, there are already 3 points marked on it. These are all archaeological sites, but there are way more than this. So I want to talk a little bit about Samwan. So Samwan is a really important site because it's one of the earliest Neolithic sites in Hong Kong. And at this site, we have found lots and lots of fish bones, stone tools, and also potteries. So it shows us how our ancestors used to live in Hong Kong, which is by eating lots of fish. And then these are all two important sites in Lamma Island as well. So Yongshuwan is where the modern period, so if you go visit Lamma Island today, this is where you're going to get off your boat, your ferry. So basically, there are archaeology everywhere. If you look close enough, you will probably be able to find something. How do you think archaeology can help us address modern problems or understand our future? Another really heavy question. Archaeology is many things. It actually allows us to learn about ourselves, find out where we come from, why we are the way we are, and why we're living the way we live. So it's really important to learn about ourselves, but equally importantly, it also can give us guidance. So many situations that we're experiencing right now, like the pandemics, climate change, or wars, like this has all happened before. So by looking at how ancient societies or ancient communities cope with these changes or these crises, we can learn better how to cope and how to prepare ourselves for what's coming next. I think that's it. Thank you for watching. If you want to know more about archaeology, please go to our department website or follow us on social media. Thank you.